A young woman's car would be found abandoned on the side of the highway, but there was no sign of her or her beloved dog. But before we get started, welcome to True Crime with Maneater. If you love all things true crime, including missing person cases, cold cases, and just the strange happenings of the world, you've come to the right place. If you would like to support the channel, and you know I would appreciate it, be sure to subscribe and turn on alerts so you never miss a video upload. Let's get started. 33-year-old Marcia Ann Ryan was known to be a reliable and hard worker. Marcia was living in Seaford, Victoria, Australia, and she worked at her uncle's transportation company. Marcia really never called out of work. She had to once because she was getting surgery, but other than that, she was always there. She was a really dedicated and hard worker. And beyond her work ethic, she was just a really lovely and nice person. Marcia did have a dog named Ziggy, and she was quite fond of this dog and very used to it just being the two of them at home. Marcia did own her own home and decided it would be good to have tenants. On August 15th, 1996, Marcia had a man move in with her. Apparently, this man made Marcia feel really uncomfortable. In fact, he scared her. On August 19th, 1996, Marcia went to work as usual. But the strange thing is, she left around 12:30 p.m. that day, and she told her coworker that she wasn't feeling well, which definitely stood out to those who knew her. It appears that Marcia had only missed one day of work, like I mentioned earlier, for that surgery, and that was over a decade. So Marcia did leave work, and although it was uncharacteristic of her, I'm sure nobody thought much of it. The death of her sister was coming up, and her sister had died in this car accident, and apparently Marcia had been driving behind her when it happened, and friends and family said she really was never right after that. So the anniversary of her sister's death was coming up, and I'm sure that was really hard for her as well. Apparently that night, her brother Mark came over and helped her with moving out that border that she wanted to evict. He hadn't been there for very long, but he really did frighten Marcia. So the brother came over, he helps her move all the stuff out. The boarder comes in, hands them the key, he leaves, and the brother stays till around 10:40 p.m. that night. Her brother Mark would then go home, but around 10:55 p.m., Marcia would call her parents. Her parents were at their holiday house in Surfers Paradise, Queensland. The thing is, it appears that Marcia had already left her home at that point, and police knew that the phone call wasn't made from her home, but they were unsure of where it was made. Marcia's father would recall her telling him, "Dad, I just need a break. Don't try to talk me out of it. I'm coming up and I'll see you in a few days." Marcia decided to make this long drive, and for reference, I think it's about 1,200 miles. And it would be about a 17 or 18-hour drive for the young woman. What sticks out to me right away is her brother left her home around 10:40 p.m. that night. You know, at 10:55, which is like 15 minutes later, she's making a call from somewhere else. Where was she when she made this call? Perhaps she just packed really quickly, hopped in her car, and then realized she should alert her parents that she was coming. I don't know. Obviously, I'm not overly familiar with Australian geography, but it appears she could take two ways to get to her parents. One was the inland highway, and with nonstop driving, she'd have been there in about approximately 18 hours. Or she could have taken the more coastal scenic route, and that would have been about 20 hours of nonstop driving. She chose the more scenic route, and I'd like to say that perhaps it was because she was taking her dog with her and she wanted to have plenty of places to pull over and let the dog out, to use the bathroom and stretch her legs and things like that. As a dog owner, I know that's probably what I would do, just to make sure they're comfortable as well as I am. It is quite late at night at this point. She calls her father at 10:55 p.m. She's probably already on the road since she didn't make the phone call from her home. And she tells him that she's going to see him in a few days. So apparently she's going to take her time driving there. It's not going to be like a nonstop trip. It's going to be just, she gets there when she gets there. But she did leave incredibly late that night. And that stands out to me. It appears that before she started her trip, she went to an ATM to withdraw some money. So she goes to this ATM, she withdraws $50, and then she's on her way. Of course, that's not inherently strange. But what is strange is that she drove 45 minutes out of her way to go to a specific ATM, which meant that she would have to double back. So she's adding more driving time onto her route already, and she's taking a scenic route. So I'm not really sure why she did that, and perhaps didn't just stop on her way. So again, this is 1996. I don't know the ATM situation. I'm sure it wasn't, there was an ATM at every gas station and things like that, but I would assume that there was ATMs along the way for travelers. Things were going okay for Ziggy and Marcia until around 11:40 p.m. that night. As Marcia's driving, she drives by this well-lit gas station that's open 24/7 and then stops just half a mile past that gas station. There is some conflicting information about this. Some people say that she pulled over half a mile away from the gas station to let her dog out. Others say she was out of fuel. I'm not sure that it's proven she was out of fuel. I could just maybe have not found that information, but I looked and I didn't see it. So if she wasn't out of fuel and she pulled over, half a mile away from the gas station, perhaps she was taking her dog out. I wonder why she hadn't pulled into that gas station and taken her dog out there. I know when I travel, I always try to go to really well-lit places, especially at night, to take my dogs out. Not only because, of the inherent danger, but because pulling over on a highway or wherever is really dangerous, especially at night. Somebody could accidentally hit you if they're not paying attention. I mean, so much could go wrong. So I'm really curious, did she run out of gas? Was she just not paying attention? She drives by the gas station and then half a mile down the road, she's thinking, oh shit, I'm out of gas. Or did she drive by because she didn't need gas and then realize Ziggy probably needed to use the bathroom? Apparently, a truck driver would see her walking. And he pulled over and he asked her, hey, do you need a ride? Like, are you in trouble? And he did notice that she seemed to be in distress, but she wouldn't take a ride from him. He said that perhaps, she was scared of getting in a car with a stranger, which makes a lot of sense. But he did mention that he didn't see a dog with her. So Marcia asked him, please leave me alone. He doesn't want to scare her and get involved. He goes and drives away and leaves Marcia there. That appears to be the last known sighting of Marcia, until a passing police officer spotted her abandoned car around 2:48 a.m. He would take down the license plate and assume it was an abandoned vehicle. Authorities would deem it stolen and abandoned and left a message on her home phone to warn her that it was going to be impounded. But on August 23rd, a passing vehicle spotted Marcia's wallet on a median strip on the highway, and it had been approximately 12 miles past where her car was abandoned. The person who found her wallet would notice that the cards were scattered in a line, seemingly as if it had been tossed out of a car window as it went past. So he would do the right thing and call the number in the wallet to let Marcia know that he had found her wallet. In spite of these extensive searches, there was no sign of Marcia or Ziggy. People speculated that perhaps she had just been overworked and overwhelmed, and maybe had a breakdown and decided to disappear. Some believe that perhaps she went to get Ziggy out of the car and he bolted. Maybe he saw an animal or, got scared of cars going by, whatever it might be. And when the trucker saw her, she was maybe looking for her dog and she was in complete distress at that point. Apparently where Marcia pulled off that night, it was a really busy spot on the highway and there was these huge embankments. And so her brother thought it would be odd for her to stop there in general. It was not well lit. It was just dangerous. So it made no sense that she had pulled over. Between about the 20th and 30th of August, people did call in and say that they saw Ziggy running around. And they would say it was about 40 miles from where her car was found. Marcia's family knew that something was wrong because Ziggy was just her beloved dog. They never went anywhere without each other. Ziggy would never leave her side. And so her parents are saying, something happened that night. She would never just let her dog off the leash and let it run away for fear something might happen to it. Her family does have different opinions about what happened to her. Her mother does believe that Marcia died, although she of course hopes that she's out there and well. Her father believes that perhaps she intended to have a short break from just life in general, but became embarrassed by all the media reports and decided to not return home. Her brother said that when they were younger, they used to hitchhike a lot and believed that Marcia was in a state of mind that night where she chose to discard her identity and hitchhike to the nearest state, which would be New South Wales. Although there were reported sightings of her, none have ever been confirmed. Her family and authorities do not believe that she would have committed suicide. They said that she would never do that to herself or leave her dog in harm's way. I'm really curious about this tenant. Although Marcia's brother came over and helped her, move the belongings out and it was peaceful, the tenant gave the keys to Marcia and everything was fine, something about that tenant did scare Marcia. And to evict somebody only a few days after kind of living with them, something was wrong there. So I'm curious if he was ever investigated thoroughly or what that situation was. I don't like putting theories out there without any, concrete evidence, but theoretically, this person could have been really upset about being evicted only after a few days of living somewhere. This person could have watched and waited for her brother to leave, noticed that she was leaving, and, either follow her or kidnap her. I don't know. Just something about that situation seems just incredibly strange to me. So I'd really like to know, was he cleared as a suspect? What was he doing that night? It feels like there's just so much unanswered about this case. Why did she drive 45 minutes out of her way to go to an ATM only to withdraw $50? I've also read that perhaps she didn't really pack enough to go on this long journey. Somebody mentioned that she didn't even take her toothbrush with her, which, again, these are little details and I'm not sure they're actually accurate. But if that's the case, right, was she in a hurry to get out of her home? Did something spook her? Was she just not in a great mental state? Why didn't she pack thoroughly for this trip where she had planned on staying with her parents for quite some time? Many people believe that perhaps she was just having a mental breakdown, that, her sister's passing, the date was coming up. She may have been just burnt out with work, and then this thing with the tenant, and all these things piled on, and perhaps, she just started to have a mental breakdown. And maybe Ziggy got out of the car. Maybe she lost him, and that was kind of the catalyst of it all. And she just kind of wandered in the bush looking for her beloved dog and never returned. Perhaps she died because she was exposed to the elements. She may have gotten lost out there. But I do feel like there's something sinister about this case. Something did happen to Marcia that night. Where did she make that phone call? Why did she go 45 minutes out of her way to go to an ATM? Was she meeting somebody? Was she picking somebody up to take them with her? Had somebody followed her? What happened to her? But I would love to know any of your thoughts on this case. What happened to Marcia? Did somebody do something? Did perhaps she pull over, lose her dog, wandered into nature, and got lost? Let me know in the comments. But that's it for today, guys. If you like this video or any other video on my channel, be sure to subscribe and turn on alerts so you never miss a video upload. If there's a case you'd like me to cover, and I love video suggestions, pop it in the comments below and I'll be sure to get to it. In the meantime, check out some other videos on my channel while you wait for the next upload, and I'll see you then.